Well, hello everyone. My name is Brendan Walsh. I'm the Sales Director for Opengear here in Asia Pacific. And I'm just going to cover off Opengear, our smart solutions for resilient networks. So just briefly, just going to give a little bit of background about Opengear, what our primary or focus is on, a little bit about the product families, key features, and a little bit of discussion to finish off with. I expect this presentation will go for about 15 to 20 minutes. And at that point, I'll open it up for discussions, but I'll probably stop recording at that point in time. I'll just cover off the presentation. So first of all, thank you for attending. And I'd like to go to the next slide, which is about Opengear. So Opengear was started in 2004 with a manufacturing facility in Utah. We've got our head office now is in New Jersey, but we've got a large R&D operation in Brisbane, Australia, where I'm from Sydney, Australia, and sales offices all around the world, as in Sydney, Australia, in Singapore, Europe, the Americas. Our product is a widely adopted enterprise out-of-band management solution. We have, and I'll cover off who we sell to and where we sell. And our solution, single focus, is to make networks more resilient and provide uptime during outages. We've had numerous awards, as you can see, several on the, or just a couple on the right-hand side of the screen. But I'll continue to go forward. So what is out-of-band management? Out-of-band management involves the use of dedicated channel for managing network devices. So on every network device, there is still generally a management port. A lot of cases, it's still a serial port where you get to that device and play around with the CLI, or whether you do that through a web interface. There's a few of them going across to USB these days, which we also support. And we've also got network or data ports, which are out-of-band management ports, and we also support those. So anything to do with management of network devices is we support. So we've been pioneering this for a very long time. Nearly all our product is vendor agnostic, meaning it'll support anything. So if you have a look at where we really fit, a lot of our products work with Cisco, Juniper, Brocade, Arista, Huawei, Fortinet. It really doesn't matter. We'll support all of them. And we're used in data centers and branch offices all over the world with those appliances. We have been doing this for a very long time. And as you can see on the chart on the right-hand side, in 2010, we started supporting PDUs and UPSs. So you could actually control the power of the device. We put in stateful firewalls. We started realizing security was an issue, a big issue back in late 2012. So not only did we do IPsec, we started supporting VPN. At the same time, we also looked at 3G back in 2013, and we embedded it in our products. And very quickly after that, we supported it with the 4G when 4G started rolling through. It became apparent in 2014 that we needed a management console, which we call Lighthouse. And Lighthouse is involved a lot in our product suite. And you'll see, we'll touch on that today a little bit, and I'll show you where it's going. We've got an IM7200, which is our top-of-the-line data center product, and a lot of the majors, or the hyper data centers, as we like to call them, are using that. And then on the branch office products, we've got the ACM 7000s. We've got a couple of where we released cellular models for specific markets. We have one for Asia Pacific, which covers off in nearly all the regions across Asia Pacific. And we're either getting certifications or have certifications like Japan, or we're getting certifications for a country like China. And as you see, we've done a major update to Lighthouse in 2017, which we're referring to as Lighthouse 5. So what do our customers do with our solution? Typically, and where it really fitted in was what we call day 2. So that was troubleshooting and remediation over serial, so over IP. So in the data center, if something went wrong, the technicians wanted to SSH or use a GUI to get into the console port of the unit. So if someone made a mistake, if the unit wasn't responding, if there's a security patch didn't take, how do you actually get to the unit and remediate and fix it if you can't get in there, especially if it's in a data center? Or what if it's in a branch? So that take it to the next level, we allowed them to actually see the UPS, what was happening. We could also power cycle devices. So rather than having to go to a separate system and try and figure out which unit am I recycling, is that the correct Cisco ASR unit, or is it am I really recycling the power on the correct unit? We can actually manage that for you, and I'll show you that. We also do environmental monitoring, which is very, very powerful in the branch office. So you can do shared sessions, which is great when you're doing collaboration work between your network engineers. So you've got someone training purposes, monitoring purposes, different countries, or you're asking for vendor assistance. So if you've got a specific requirement for a VoIP system and you wanted to get the manufacturer or the supplier to come in, you can come in via our system. And then we've got extensive port logging for auditing. So we capture all the information that you're doing, even down to the keystrokes. That's typically how it was used. But what's happening in the last couple of years, we're starting to see that a lot of companies just can't do that anymore. They just don't have the time. So they're looking for automation tool sets. So we're starting to work with people using things like ZTP. So what we allow companies to do is we allow them to configure the devices remotely. And we can actually do that, pointing our devices to DHCP service, or they can become DHCP servers. They've got FTP storage, which I'll show a little bit later. So you can do remote configuration devices that are fresh out of the box, very handy. And that also means that new service rollouts, when you're updating your firewall or you're putting a new SD-WAN device in there, it makes life a lot easier. And then you also, with that, it just means that if you're doing security patch updates, you can build up scripts to take care of it using all these tool sets that I've just mentioned. So I'll just go to the next slide. So who do we play with? Well, basically everybody. Cloud providers. We provide with, people like Apple or Microsoft, Azure, or telcos. We play with most telcos around the world, or a lot of telcos around the world. People like Vodafone or Telstra in Australia, or AIS in Thailand, Verizon in the States. It doesn't matter. Retail, it's very powerful in the retail market. When you have larger retail presence or multitude of stores, people like Aldi in Europe or Woolworths in Australia, Best Buy in the USA. Financial markets, we have a myriad of financial markets. I can't really talk about too many of them, but there are some case studies on our website which cover a few. Healthcare and pharmacies, we do a lot of work with hospitals, with private healthcare organisations. And there's also a couple of other ones on there as well, where we've got utilities, power and water, gas. So basically anyone who has kit in the data center or out at the remote sites that needs help making a lot more resilient. So just an example of some of the clients. I won't go in this too much detail. This is an old slide. We've got a lot more, but you'll see some names on there that use our product. So the 3 product sets that we cover off. We have the IM7200, which is our top of the line data center product. Still very strong product, been around for several years. This comes, I'll cover this in a bit more detail, but this basically comes with a cellular option, AC and DC, and a fiber and a gigabit Ethernet. The resilient gateway, it's the same as the IM7200, but just in a cut down version. Top of the line product, it comes with the same features. It comes with the fiber, gigabit Ethernet. a dual SIM to get access to it. It also comes with a combination of serial and Ethernet ports. And then the CM7100, again, data center product without any cellular. And I'll cover that off just a little bit of detail. So breaking them down, so the IM7200, as I said, has an option for 4G. GPS can come in very handy for when you're doing a location. If you've got multiple locations, just trying to confirm where this device is. The Wi-Fi can actually be an access point, or you can use it to get out. So normally people, if they're in the data center behind a lock cabinet, often you just turn on the access point so an engineer, rather than having to get the local console port. There's still a V92 modem built in, and there's a gigabit ARM processor with 16 gig of internal flash storage. And you can put in SD cards and USB storage on top of that. Down the bottom, you have redundant power, whether that be AC or DC. The pinouts are software selectable. We have everything from an 8-port through to 48-port. And as I mentioned before, there's dual gigabit or dual fiber. So on to the CM7100, which is the same. And what I will say here is that all the software on these units is the same. It's just what the hardware differences are. So the CM7100 is more cost effective. It doesn't have an LTE modem. We take this guy up to 96 ports. So the 96 ports, we have 48 ports on the back, 48 ports on the front. It's Cisco straight pin out, which is pretty well the norm these days. It's dual Ethernet, and all our units have built-in TFT or FTP server. This guy has 4 gig. The IM7200 has 16. It also supports environmental monitoring. Again, remote sites, very handy. You can power on and off devices with it works with PDUs and UPSs. Dual AC DC port sharing, as we talked before, and all our units support TACACS, LDAPs, radius authentication. On to how a lot of people use this IM7200. You can use IM7200 in the data center, and you often see that it's at the head of a rack. Whether they put CM7100s behind it or a IM7100's non-cellular behind it. But usually one row is acellular. You do not want to go cross-racking across the units because that can create complexity that you don't want to do. But we are getting a lot of people using the IM cellular inside data centers these days. It seems to be becoming more and more the norm. The Resilient Gateway, our branch office product. It comes in 4 or 8 serial ports. We have all units come with 4 USB ports, which can be used as console ports. It's dual gigabit with an SFP option on some of them. It's multi-carrier, meaning it supports dual SIM. Again, built-in TFT, FTP server, and this time has built-in I/O for external sensors. The unit comes with a temperature, but you can easily plug in humidity or a door contact sensor, water leak detector, smoke detector. Very powerful in a branch office where you're trying to get the same information that you would in data center. Again, you can power off the devices. I'll say it again, all our software on all our devices, doesn't matter whether it's a branch product or the data center product, is the same. Data buffering, port sharing, and security. Security is top notch on these devices. I'm yet to have anyone knock us back due to a security issue. So architecture for a branch office product. It can be used for numerous different things, but one of the things you'll see here is the product is designed to look after the firewall and router, which is fantastic if it goes down, but you can also get to the switch. So if you're getting a DDoS attack or something happens at the switch and it's causing the router to flood with traffic, because they usually don't have huge amounts of storage or data on them, so they can get flooded, you can get into the unit with the out of band via 4G. But you can also control the point of sale equipment. You can also control a server, an ILO card in a server or a DRAX card in the server. And then one of the things I haven't talked about is you can get a failover to 4G. You can use it as a failover modem as well, combined functionality. Now, all this is usually done via VPN access, so the security is top notch, and it'll call home via the LTE to Lighthouse if you choose to use the Lighthouse server, one of the major functions. And it actually works really well with SD-WAN and again with ZTP for rapid deployment. We're getting a lot of sites starting to use that. So let's have a look at some of the advanced feature sets. Vendor neutral power management. So Opengear appliances work. We're in the Linux space. We're very much open source, and we use network UPS tools, PowerMont, and IPM tools projects. Built into each appliance is the ability to monitor and control UPS and PDUs, and we support over 100 vendors, whether it be Ethernet, USB, or serial interfaces. So you can initiate a graceful server shutdown. You can see the UPS loads battery, which is really important when you lose your primary connection, because that's when you want to gather that information in a lot of cases. You can actually switch the PDUs for simple power cycling, which I'll show you on the next slide in a bit more detail. So you can create check conditions on your power and trigger events to happen, and you get graphical access to the UPS. So this is what the power menu looks like. This is one of the feature sets when you can do this. So you can actually see here that we've powered an old Opengear power strip, PDU power strip with power point 2 controlling a Juniper T1600. And here you can just simply power on, power off, recycle the power, or show the current power status. So if a device isn't responding, you can actually recycle the power from here. Now on there, as I mentioned before, you can have environmental monitoring. Again, in the data center, not really important, not that important. However, you might want to put in the data center a door contact sensor, can be very powerful, or an individual temperature in the rack. You might be having problems in a specific rack. But you can plug in these sensors into any one of our devices, and there's smoke detectors, there's water leak detectors, door contact sensors, temperature sensors, vibration sensors, and I think I said smoke detectors. So it gives you all that information, and you can get an audit trail, and you can trigger events on that. And I'll show an example of that, I think, on the next slide. Oh, no, not the next slide. So we also, as I said, have TFTP and FTP server built into every single device. So you can store images on our devices, or you can point them to a TFTP server. Again, very handy when you're doing a security update to, let's say, hundreds of, again, that Juniper T1600, a very old device, but a current device. You wanted to do a complete update for all of them. So you can actually store the images on our devices. So if something goes wrong, you can actually do a backup, and you can restore that backup config file. So it means you don't have to pull information down, and it results in a lot less downtime. So all this leads to our check response resolve. Now this is where it becomes really powerful, and that's why we refer to it as smart out of band. So this sample here is a very simple ping trace, and what it's going to do is just send an SMS. It could be that you might have a temperature sensor, and you might send an SNMP trap to your saying that it's gone over 70 degrees. At the same time, you might send an SMS to the store manager, again, if it's a remote site. There's a lot of things you can do here. And just on the next page, I'll just show you just some of the things you can do. Gateway connectivity lost, manage service connections, serial cable unplugged, server fan failures, responses. What can you do? Power the cycle of gateway, log events. You can sound a local alarm. You can do graceful shutdowns. Very handy if water's detected. But resolves, you can actually start doing some more powerful things. So you could actually build a very minor script if you're doing an update, a security update, and some of the devices don't respond. You could actually create a response by putting an SNMP, an alert, into head office, but at the same time, you might design to power cycle the devices to bring it back up, or to start to initiate to restore the config file. You can start to do lots of scripting work on this. So the other function of the branch office product, which is primarily used for, works with anything with cellular, but again, for the branch office product, is to use the device as a failover connection. So it's basically just becomes a 4G modem. So you put it into WAN port 2 on your router. If the primary connection goes down to your ISP, it will automatically, you can set it so it automatically fails over. Now a device can be in off, standby, or on, and you can have all those three settings. And usually these days it's set to standby, and as soon as it initiates, the 4G connects and goes through. And at the same time, on a separate network, you can get into the out of band. So how do you do that? Especially if you've got 50 devices, 100 devices. We have a Lighthouse 5, which is our central management out-of-band management software. It's a VM appliance or a Hyper-V appliance. So you can run it on your infrastructure. Now, it's been built from the ground up just recently, and it's got a very advanced UI and OS, and it's based around HTML5. It manages all Opengear devices and third-party devices like Cisco or Avocent. Now, we're going further forward with this because we're actually enhancing the security, enhancing the functionality. So RESTful APIs, you'll start to see that with the automation toolset these days, that you're actually starting to allow third parties to come in here. It's very secure with the Secure OpenVPN. It has Slack integration. You can put HTML web-based terminals, smart groups, simplified user management, bulk configuration, zero-touch enrollment. It's all to make it easier and faster these days. Lighthouse 5 is a very powerful tool set, and it's being enhanced every single week. So zero-touch provisioning, just to touch on the direction we're going. Everything's about automation these days, and zero-touch is the first part of it. It allows for rapid, easy deployment, automatically provisions Opengear using text-based config files, easy editable and scalable. Automatically upgrade devices on boot. Easy integration into automated provisioning systems, Ansible, Puppet. So it's barcode with a MAC address on the gift box, scans on the receiving dock, loads into asset tracking systems and provision systems, create config files. It's a very powerful tool set, and we're enhancing this out. And you'll see some of our future products coming through that will do that even better. Last slide, our technical support. All our products come with 4-year hardware warranty. Now, if it's a hardware appliance these days, you get the 4 years support on all our products, whether that be for the software or the hardware, for the life of the product. Our RMAs, we don't get many these days at this point. None of our products have moving parts, so you just don't find that there's a lot of downtime or a lot of RMAs issued. But if you do, we have a 24-hour turnaround. Technical support hours are there, and support's just done at opengear.com. We have people all around the world who look after that. So that's a very quick introduction to Opengear. It's smart out of band with a few other functions. You'll see that it's really about making your network resilient, whether it be in the data center, whether that be in the branch office product, whether you're building out an SD-WAN solution. How do you actually make that bulletproof? Well, here's a very cost-effective way of doing that. We're getting a lot of use in the data center and a lot of use out in the branch office products these days. So I'm going to open it up to questions at this point in time, but I'm going to stop the recording. So thank you very much, but stay there and I'll open it up to questions.